it's a really I just kind of got distracted by how beautiful this sunset is right now. Wow. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Thank you, guys. Sheesh. All right, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Now I'm excited. We're getting into it. We've been in it. Oh shoot. All right, y'all. Part 5 of 6. Home stretch. We are in the home stretch right now, and it's exciting. You know what I'm saying? We've been cooking, we've been doing our thing, progressing through this spiritual off season together. It's been a beautiful journey, but we're not quite done. We're about to jump back into this. So far, we've hit the weight room, We've been getting into our worship. We started doing our agility, getting into prayer. Started hitting them wind sprints with memorizing our scriptures, right? Number 4 was that long distance conditioning, aka journaling. And now we are in the last segment of the spiritual off season, second to last part. But before we get into it, first and foremost, thank you for your time, energy, and attention as you participate in the spiritual off season. Whether you're listening, watching, or collecting this as an NFT, I appreciate you greatly. Welcome to part 5 of 6 of the spiritual off season. As always, I want to remind you that I'm not a preacher or in ministry of any kind. I'm just here as a friend, walking this journey of healing and growth alongside you. Together, we're learning to navigate life with intention and purpose. Okay, today we begin the rehabbing phase of the spiritual off season, and we're stepping into the training room. If you're an athlete, this is the place that you go when you're banged up, when you're a little sore, you need some extra care, some extra assistance. Shout out to the trainers out there who be taking care of the athletes. My heart is with y'all. I appreciate y'all. All right. So yes, we're jumping into the training room for this segment of the spiritual off season. This episode focuses on emotional regulation, healing, and the role of the vagus nerve in both our emotional and spiritual well-being. A significant part of this discussion comes from the brilliant Dr. Anita Phillips, a trauma therapist and expert in the intersection of mental health, faith, and emotional well-being. Her research on the vagus nerve and its connection to our emotional and spiritual health has transformed my understanding of healing, and I'm honored to share her wisdom with you as we get into this episode of the spiritual off season. So let's get into it. So to give a little bit of context, the vagus nerve is defined like this. The vagus nerve is the body's built-in calm button. It's a key part of the parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for helping us regulate stress and return to a state of rest and peace. Picture the vagus nerve as a tree running through your body with branches connecting to different systems like your heart, lungs, gut, and it's all working together to ground you emotionally and physically. Spiritually, the training room is where we engage with our deepest emotions and allow ourselves to heal. It's a space to acknowledge our pain, address our needs, and rebuild our strength. Just like the weight room is where you build strength, and that's where we go to for worship, right? The training room is where you recover, heal, and rebuild, and these are essential steps for emotional and spiritual growth. Dr. Phillips teaches that emotions are like soil, and our thoughts grow from that soil, right? So if the soil isn't healthy, neither are the thoughts that come from it. By tending to our emotional health, we create fertile ground for clarity and for wisdom. She talks about how emotions are like hunger signals in a sense. They tell us what we need, and these are 3 examples that she shares with us. Number 1, sadness signals a need for connection. Number 2, anger signals that something we valued is being undervalued, and that value needs to be restored. And number 3, fear signals a need for safety. You with me so far? I know it's a lot of new information, but we got this. All right, so the vagus nerve helps us find that balance. When we ignore our emotions, we might look fine on the outside, but feel empty or disconnected on the inside. And emotional regulation is what allows us to truly feel whole. I can only speak on my personal experience, but for a very long time, especially being an athlete, I got very good at suppressing my emotions. Like, no crying, no, like, all of that, just like buried it down for years and years and years and years. And I didn't really realize the harm that that was doing until I started really leaning into this faith journey and realizing, like, okay, yeah, I am a human being, and I need to be able to express and release these things that I'm feeling. So then it's not so heavy, when you can release how you're feeling, release the emotions that are swirling around within you. It helps take that heavy weight off of you, and you literally feel lighter. Dr. Anita Phillips has an incredible book. I highly recommend checking it out. It's called The Garden Within. And in her book, she describes the heart as a garden. She describes our emotions like water for the soil, helping it thrive. And when we cry, reflect, or feel deeply, we're watering that soil and allowing growth to happen. So, like, I can literally hear like my dad in my head right now. What you doing all that crying for? We ain't crying. You know what I'm saying? Like, shutting that shit down. Um, which, like, hey, I love my father. I love my dad. He didn't know. He didn't know. You know what I'm saying? We're learning together. We're all growing together. But when you do cry, there's something about like a crazy sense of clarity that comes after you've had a good cry. And I mean, you just gotta let it go. Just like the ugly cry type of thing. Like sometimes we really need that we just need that. Yeah, as you're watching this, you might be feeling that. Like, you need just a good release. Go cry, fam. I'm telling you. And then come back. Let me know how you feel afterwards. In her book, she shares this really powerful quote that has stuck with me. The creator designed your heart to be a garden, not a war zone. A truly powerful life isn't one, it is cultivated. Cultivation, it takes time. It's a process, right? If you have a garden, you know. So yeah, it's not like an instant kind of thing. You don't just all of a sudden unlock something and boom, life is successful. No, it's like it's gradual. I want to share another quote, but this was not from the book. This is from an interview that she was doing with the brilliant Miss Oprah Winfrey. Dr. Anita Phillips shares that faith says it's possible and hope says it's possible for me. So hope is what keeps the soil fertile and helps us grow even in tough seasons. So like faith is one thing, hope is another thing. Faith is like, yeah, that thing has happened. That's possible, right? Hope is like, wow, I actually see that and envision that for my own life, and I could maybe access that, right? So keeping hope alive is extremely important, and again, that helps us grow even in the tough seasons. Dr. Phillips talks about how generational trauma is often rooted in harmful narratives we've carried. She shares healing starts when we challenge those scripts and write new ones for ourselves. And the new scripts that we write for ourselves are grounded in God's truth about who we are. So when I read this, I immediately think I got to get connected to God so God can tell me who I really am rather than me trying to figure it out or hearing society, family, friend, whoever around swirling around. How does God see you rather versus like this earthly identity? You know what I'm saying? God sees you so much grander and abundant and higher than you can even imagine. Like for me, this whole scenario here, I ain't know about it. I was not expecting none of this. Like the pinnacle for my life, I thought I was about to be like a tour photographer, like documenting somebody else's life on the road, taking pictures, getting just like traveling, surviving. I ain't really have any bigger vision than that until God was like, all right, it's time to cook. And then we started getting in alignment with our most authentic selves. And now we're here. So I think what the tricky part is being obedient to that calling and believing that you are that person that God is calling you to become. Dr. Phillips also talks about how Jesus specifically didn't hold back his emotions. At Lazarus's tomb, he wept, even though he knew a miracle was coming. Like, he knew he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead. He knew that was going to happen, but he still had those emotions that needed to be released, right? And so that moment teaches us that expressing our emotions is not a weakness, but a pathway to deeper connection and healing. And another good point that she makes is that throughout the Bible, emotional authenticity often leads to breakthrough moments. So when we're real with God, we create space for that transformation to happen. Okay, here are some tools for healing and activating the vagus nerve. First and foremost, we have to start by acknowledging the emotions that we're feeling. So start by naming what you feel. Awareness is the first step towards healing. Ignoring emotions is like ignoring an injury. You can't heal what you won't acknowledge. You can't heal what you don't want to say and admit is happening, right? These 4 actions are what Dr. Phillips recommends to activate our vagus nerve. Okay, so I'm going to go through these now. Number 1, deep breathing. Like deep breathing, like hold it, hold it, hold it. Even do the grunts, like get a little, you know what I'm saying? Get a little vocal with it. Breathe so deep that you feel a little tug in your lungs, like so deep breathing. Number 2, humming or singing. Now, not all of us are singers, and I understand that. We don't have to be. I am not a singer either, but I do feel better when I sing. And whether it's you got to create space, you got to create time to where it's like individual and you kind of doing your own thing, that's okay. You don't have to be, go out karaoke or nothing like that, but just taking time to sing some of these worship songs, again, speaking words, speaking these affirmations and encouragement, is powerful tool. Number 3, seeing greenery in nature or being by the ocean, like hearing the waves crash along the shore, just watching that happen. A massive part of my process is literally daydreaming and watching trees just like sway in the wind. And that probably sounds so crazy, but it's my process. My process is my process. Your process is your process, right? Like when I'm feeling like overwhelmed and that kind of thing, I know I need to take a step back and go stare at some trees for a little bit. It brings me down. It calms me down. Same with the ocean, but that's not always accessible. Trees, plants, swaying, doing their thing is a little bit more accessible. Okay, and number 4, connecting with loved ones. We are human beings. Like, we are designed for connection. We need other human beings in our lives to live a fulfilled life, to feel like we're living a fulfilled life. Again, my own personal testimony. I used to be very isolated, and I would say I don't like people. Bruh, no. The truth was, I didn't like myself. I needed a lot of inner work to happen before I could really start loving people around me the way that I wanted to love them and the way that they deserve to be loved. I realized that my self-love meter was real low, and I was trying to pour out so much love for everybody else, but I was like completely scooping from an empty cup because I didn't know how to not only refill my own cup, but I also didn't know how to. I had like a threshold of like how much I could love other people because I wasn't loving myself in that same way. So in the Bible, the 2 commandments Jesus tells us, the 2 biggest commandments that Jesus tells us is, number 1, love God with all your heart, and number 2, love your neighbor like you love yourself. And when I read that, I was like, I mean, I love my family, I love my friends, like I really be trying to pour into people, but I was like, dang, but love your neighbor like you love yourself, like I love myself, I really wasn't loving myself. And yeah, that's a process. That's a whole process within itself, right? And that's what this spiritual off season is about, is reconnecting. It's just getting in alignment, getting in your truth, Who does God say you are, and believe in that. I believe it for you, but you got to believe it. So yeah, these 4 practices help calm the body and create a sense of safety. For me, learning to embrace my emotions instead of suppressing them has been a game changer. Like, for a long time, I thought that was like some sort of weakness. I'm learning it's actually building me up and strengthening me. And when I finally let myself feel, I found a deeper sense of clarity and peace, and also deeper connection with God. Our hearts are gardens, not battlefields, just like Dr. Anita Phillips says. The more you tend to it, the stronger and more resilient it becomes. Healing takes time, but every step you take is worth it. Trust me. And again, we're in this together. This week, I challenge you to create space for your emotions. Reflect on what they're telling you and trust that God is with you every step of the way. Take some time, create some space to cry if you feel like you need to. Sometimes we don't think about those things. So this is just a friendly reminder. And hey, yo, 5 of 6? What? We in it. We've almost completed this. Like, come on now. Thank you so much for being here, for showing up, and for committing to your own spiritual off season. And although we're in this together, it's still on you to do the work, and you've been showing up. So I'm proud of you. I got you, you got me. I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you. I could not do this alone, homie. So, again, 5 of 6. We've made it here, almost into the last part of the spiritual off season. But it doesn't end there. The work is a lifelong process. I really believe that. And so it's a journey. You know what I'm saying? It's a marathon, not a sprint. But the marathon continues. And again, we are in this together. You're not alone. So that is wrapping up this episode of the spiritual off season. Thank you again for being on this journey with me. Stay hydrated, stay blessed. Peace.